guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. As per usual, I have my Wicca candle in here, making the whole room smell like caramel apple. I don't have much to ramble about today, and I'm going to be reading from the Backwoods Creepy section on Reddit. Happy day 17 of 31 days of Halloween, and this is from the Reddit author Clyde 2003. We've actually read some of his stories before in the past, and they're all really creepy, and apparently they're all true stories. So this is super fun. I like reading the Backwoods Creepy ones because it's all like stuff that takes place in like the forest, and I think that's really fun. So this one is titled, I have no idea what we saw that night at Swagger Lake. It was the summer of 2005. A friend of mine, Wayne, and I decided to spend the day fishing in Upper Swagger Lake in the Lost River mountain range of Idaho. Visited mostly by the locals, this alpine lake is tucked up on a ridge overseeing two long, dry canyons on opposite sides. It sits just at the top of a tree line, providing an uninhibited view of the sky and surrounding mountain peaks. The fishing is usually really good. If you like golden trout, that is. I hate trout. They taste like mud, but I do love fishing. And some of the best, most secluded lake fishing can be found in these high Idaho lakes. Getting to Swagger Lake is not an easy task. It's a 100-mile journey over a lonely highway from the region's largest town, Idaho Falls. When you hit the dirt road turnoff, there are miles of four-wheel driving up the canyon to the hiking trail. Once at the trailhead, it's a 2-mile, 1,000-foot vertical gain hike up to the lake. But then you finally arrive. Surrounded by the bald peaks of the Little Lost Range, it's all worth the effort. Arriving at the lake around noon, we spent the day fishing, relaxing, and chatting. Far down in the canyon and out of sight from us, we continually heard periodic loud blasts. Growing up in the rural US, you get accustomed to people targeting shooting on public land. And that's what we concluded was happening. We guessed it was a large caliber, muzzle-loaded rifle. The blasts were paced out long enough that they had to be manually loaded to their guns. The shots reverberated and echoed throughout the canyon. Whoever was down there was having a bit of fun with their rifle. Down in the canyon, we continued fishing, only momentarily, reminded of the explosion as they continued to occur throughout the day. The fishing was great, and the day seemed to flash by. Before we knew it, the sun was cresting on the mountain, and we decided to head back to camp for the night. Wayne had caught his limit towards the end of the day, while I had been releasing mine. We settled down to campfire and watched the sun sink behind the mountain peaks as Wayne cooked his muddy fish. It was twilight now. Aside from the crackling of the fire, it was a quiet evening. The sky was absolutely clear, and we watched as the stars twinkled into existence in the sky. Our relaxation was interrupted by yet another one of those thunderous explosions, only this time much closer to us. That was weird. Target shooting is extremely dangerous, especially at night. Whoever was down there in the canyon was being very irresponsible. Wayne nudged me with his elbow and motioned for me to look in the direction of the sound of the last explosion. While not directly visible to us, there was a light down the mountain. It was illuminating the whole canyon. From the angles of the tree shadows, we could see the source of the light. It was not at ground level. It was up high in the air, and it was moving. We watched in bewildered silence as the light moved up the canyon. We still could not get a direct line of sight on it. Yet there was another blast that seemed to shake our skulls. The light on the canyon flashed almost 100 times brighter than before, and we could absolutely not make sense of what was happening. As we sat there, unsure of what to do, the light rose upwards towards the canyon. As it crested on the trees and continued to rise, we could finally get a direct look. It was a brilliant ball of yellow golden light. Getting the size estimate was difficult, but I figured it was about 20 to 40 feet in diameter. The light rose silently above the canyon and then above our elevation at the lake. It stopped several hundred feet above the surrounding landscape and stayed there. The object's surface shimmered and danced. Little feathers of sparks would periodically jump away from the object and fall down towards the trees. Wayne looked at me, and all I could do was shrug my shoulders and give him, I have no idea what that is, look. After a few minutes, the ball's surface stopped dancing. It was completely still in the air above us. No sound, no movement, and with no warning, it exploded in a deafening shower of sparks and blinding light. Wayne and I instinctively jumped into the dirt and covered our heads. The light was so bright, I felt I could see through my closed eyelids. The explosion shook everything around us. I could feel the shock resonate in the ground beneath me. It was like the world was coming undone at the seams. Then everything went absolutely silent and dark. The whole event could have only been a handful of seconds long, but it felt like hours. When we looked up into the sky, the ball of light was gone. We were left alone in just the dim light of the stars. Picking myself up from the dirt, all I could say to Wayne was, "What the fuck was that about?" He chuckled nervously, but didn't reply. We surveyed the camp and the surrounding area. Nothing seemed damaged or disturbed. There was no signs of fires that were started from the explosion. It was like nothing out of the ordinary had even happened. The one thing that was off, though, was the time. It was late twilight when that thing exploded above us. My watch was showing 2 o'clock in the morning. Further baffling us was Wayne's fish. They were now charred cinders above a bed of red coals that was once our campfire. I'm well aware of the phenomenon of missing time, but this was not possible. The stupid thing exploded, we hit the dirt, and then we picked ourselves up. Couldn't have been more than a couple of minutes from the explosion to get us up. I didn't have the mental capacity to process what had happened. I headed to my tent and went right to sleep. It was a deep, dreamless sleep. When I awoke in the morning, sun was illuminating my tent. Wayne was already up and fishing. I asked him what his thoughts are on what happened last night, and he simply shrugged and said, "It either didn't happen, or we saw something that we probably shouldn't have. It's that, or Marvin the Martian tried to kill us." We fished for a few hours that morning, then decided against camping another night at the lake. We packed up camp and hiked down to our vehicle. This happened almost 20 years ago, and I've been back to Swagger Lake several times over the years. I've never seen or heard anything like we saw on that night. I don't have an explanation for what happened, and I don't believe I ever will. And that's their whole story, so it sounds like they saw a UFO. That's fucking terrifying. I firmly believe that we are not the only intelligent life forms in all of the universes and all of the countless endlessness of space. So they definitely saw a UFO, and it was a creepy alien, and that is terrifying. Oh my God. So we're gonna read another one of their stories, and it's titled, "I used to work on the North Slope of Alaska." Here's one of my stories. "I used to work on the North Slope of Alaska in the oil industry. The work we were doing required us to travel far out into Alaska Petroleum Reserve, which is basically just untamed tundra wilderness for hundreds of miles. The oil companies would build these long ice roads in the winter that would lead to exploration drilling pads. Our job was to go out after they finished the initial drilling and test rock formations for their oil-producing qualities. It was around mid-January. The sun hadn't quite come up yet. And when I say the sun hadn't come up, I mean in almost a month and a half, polar nights are intense. The particular well site we were traveling was about 60 miles west of Alpine, Alaska, deep in the wilderness. Our job took a week, but we finished and were headed back to camp to finish our hitch and go home. At the beginning and end of the icy roads are guard shacks that you have to check in and out of for safety. There's no cell reception, and radios work only to a distance. If you don't check in or out in a set time, they'll come looking for you and ensure that you're not a popsicle. It was about 4 in the morning, not that it mattered in the land of endless night, and we were halfway across the ice road. Travel was slow, as the speed limit on the roads is only 25 miles per hour, when something appeared on the road in our headlights. It was a man, in jeans, sneakers, and a hooded jacket, walking down ice roads in wilderness tundra at 4 a.m., and it was 20 degrees outside. It's not unusual for the local Inuit people to be out this far hunting. Maybe a snowmobile broke down and he was trying to get back to the guard shack. Seemed plausible. He didn't acknowledge us or our trucks as we rolled up next to him. He just kept shuffling forward. He didn't seem cold. His clothing, while totally not appropriate for the extreme weather, appeared warm and dry. We also noticed he wasn't Inuit, but Caucasian. I rolled down my window and asked if he needed any help and if he was okay. He still didn't acknowledge us, just kept shuffling forward. His face was completely blank, devoid of any thought or emotion. The other guy in my truck suggested that maybe he was in an accident and was in shock. I continued rolling my truck alongside him as he trudged down the roads, still trying to get his attention. Even in the extreme cold, I could occasionally get whiffs of a peculiar smell coming off of him. He smelled acidic, if that makes sense. There was just a lot about this guy that made the hair on my neck stand up. The guy behind me in the truck's crew cab had enough of all of this. He rolled down his window and he reached out to grab the guy. He later said he was just going to try to shake him out of the stupor. Before my buddy's hand could reach him though, the dude walking spun around and latched onto my buddy's outstretched arm. He glared at my buddy and then at me with a look of pure rage. not removing his hand from his forearm. If emotions had a physical temperature, this guy could have melted the entire tundra that night. My buddy groaned in pain as he tried to get his arm free. At that moment, this guy starts screaming. There was so much hate and rage and anger in that scream. It was absolutely terrifying. I slammed on the gas and I spun out on the ice for a second before the wheels caught and launched us forward. The dude still had a hold of my buddy's arm and was trying to pull him out of the truck. He was running alongside of the truck while the other guy in the cab held on to my buddy to keep him inside. After several moments, my buddy tore free from the guy and we hauled ass to the guard shack another 30 miles down the road. We checked in with the guard and reported what we had seen. The guard was looking at us like we were pulling a prank on him, but policy said that they had to check it out regardless. My buddy's arm was sore, and when he pulled back his sleeve, there were noticeable bruises in the shape of a hand around his arm. We filed a report with the guard and were told to head back to our camp. None of us really wanted to talk about what happened, and it was a quiet drive the rest of the way. We flew home the next day. The next time we saw the guard at the shack, we asked him if we ever saw the guy on his patrol. He told us they searched up and down that ice road for a solid 12-hour shift and saw nothing. Not even tracks in the snow leading off the road. He told us it was a good prank and that he'd get us back for making him waste a shift driving around. But it wasn't a prank. Who would make up a story like that? And who would willingly bruise their arm for a dumb prank? We never got a satisfying answer to what happened that evening. I still wonder about the dude, if he even was a dude. The Alaskan tundra is a weird place, and that was just one of the many weird stories from my time up there. I'll work to write down more of my experiences and I'll share them on appropriate subreddits. So that's really creepy. I wonder if it was a spirit that you guys saw, because you can't just disappear, especially in the tundra. Like, if you guys went and checked in and reported it and they went out immediately, they would have found him. So I'm curious what that was. It's almost like a woman in white, but it was a guy. It was like a man in white. So that's absolutely terrifying. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. I'm going to read one more because you have another Alaskan one. It was March on the slope while still in the depths of Arctic winter. With the equinox approaching, the day/night cycle was becoming more even. My flight to the slope was delayed due to a large blizzard, which shut down the Dead Horse and Huparki airstrips. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I spent 3 days waiting in Anchorage until the storm cleared and we were able to fly. Landing in the airstrip, it was evident the blizzard was more severe than we had initially thought. While whiteout blizzards are common, actually snow accumulation is not. The storm, though, was a monster. Snow drifts, several stories tall, ran up against the camp housing. Our work trucks and equipment were completely covered in snow, and it took a full day of digging to get them out. As soon as the tracks were free, we were off to our first job assignment. No time to rest in the oil field. Traveling anywhere after a storm this size is a nightmare. To get to the work site, we had a bulldoze escort us, breaking up any remaining drifts as we went. The dozer cleared our work area around the well house, and we began to rig up our equipment. It took little time, and soon we were back to normal humdrum life of Arctic oil well maintenance. Over the radio, we got a call from the bulldozer operator as he left that he had seen a giant animal headed in our direction. He couldn't tell if it was a wolf or a really big dog, but it was massive and moving erratically. In the winter, many animals aren't active on the slope. Caribou, musk oxen, and foxes are the usual wildlife you encounter in the snow. The animals keep to themselves for the most part, but you learn very quickly to never look the animals in the eyes. This goes doubly for the white foxes, and I advise you to do the same. The grizzlies will be hibernating, the male polar bears are hunting on the sea ice, while the females are denned up with their new cubs. Wolves aren't unheard of, but rarely leave the Brooks Range Mountains a couple hundred miles to the south. Whatever the operator saw, we would keep watch for, but it wasn't our problem. It was a problem for the bear police. We went about our work, albeit cautiously. It's interesting to note that the oil company on the slope have private security officers who, besides being private law enforcement, also tries to minimize encounters with wildlife. We refer to them as the bear police, which is a cute name for a rather dangerous part of their job. These security officers are the only personnel on the North Slope, outside regular law enforcement, that can carry firearms. Their primary job when encountering large predators is to harass them until they leave. This is done with beanbag guns or loud noises at first. When that fails, or the animal is unusually aggressive, lethal force is needed. We had settled into our work and forgot about the wolf or dog or whatever it was. I needed to take a leak. I got out of the truck and I walked behind the well house to take care of my business. My crewmate came over the radio telling me to get back in my truck, that there was a wolf coming out from behind the well house where I had just been and he was pacing after me. I didn't look behind me. I just ran back and jumped in my truck. I'm not taking my chances, even if it was a crewmate practical joke. Once inside, I looked out and sure enough, trotting towards the truck was a large, black, male wolf. He approached our trucks and plopped down on the snow in front of us. This wolf looked rough, even by the wild animal standards. The right side of his face was mutilated and deformed, missing his right eye and most of the skin and lips on that side of his head. The wound exposed large white teeth, giving him the appearance of a wide, crooked smile. He didn't appear aggressive, but he didn't take his good eye off of us. The one good eye was bright red in appearance. It was eerie, the way he sat there staring, watching, waiting. We radioed the security officer for help, and like a speeding bullet, they showed up 40 minutes later. That whole time waiting, the wolf never diverted its attention from us. If I hadn't seen him breathing, I would have assumed it was a statue. The security officers arrived and took some pictures for their report. They began the process of driving the animal back out into the tundra. Truck horns didn't scare him. He didn't even flinch. Charging him with their truck did nothing either. They then took aim with a beanbag gun and hit him square in the ribs. The wolf let out a yelp, but didn't get up or move from the spot. The next beanbag hit him in the head, and that jostled him enough to get him to leave. I was able to get one decent picture of the guy before he left the worksite. Security told us to call back if we saw the wolf again. They seemed confident he would move on and not be a bother. The sun was setting and our job was still hours from wrapping up. Working a 13 to 15-hour day isn't unusual. You either get used to the long hours or you find another line of work pretty quick. I was running the computer equipment inside the truck and a weird data was coming back from the tools down in the well. They were blanking out and losing signal, and they were reporting data backwards. But diagnostics wasn't indicating any issues. To the computer system, everything was operating normally. I tried a few different things to fix the issue, but it persisted. One of the workers went out into the wellhead to check the gauges and cables, trying to isolate the problem from there. He was outside for not more than 5 minutes before the night was pierced by a long, bellowing howl. This was immediately followed by a high-pitched shriek of our crewmate. Throwing the door open, I was able to catch a fleeting glimpse of a large, dark figure running behind the well house. Our crewmate ran past us and jumped inside, pale, sweating, and full of adrenaline. He tried to relay what just happened. Through his panting, he said he was in the well house checking the cables when someone walked up behind him. Thinking it was one of us, he started a conversation with his back turned. When he got no reply, he turned around and was met face to face with a 7-foot-tall black wolf standing on hind legs. It stood between him and the door, growling. Without thinking, he flung the pipe wrench at the beast and struck him hard in the chest. That's when it let out a howl and ran off. Our crewmate was adamant that it was the same wolf from earlier because his face was mangled in that crooked half smile and fiery red eye. Myself and the others on the crew had a hard time believing he saw a giant wolf man. We had no doubt saw the wolf, but we resonated that it was his panic and he was hallucinating that it was upright like a man. But we'd all encountered enough weird things on the slope to never count out the impossible. We radioed the security officers and told them the wolf had returned and waited inside the truck. What else could we do but wait? I wasn't about to go there and fight Satan's guard dog with a clipboard and a mouse pad. Every time we felt like things settled down outside, we would hear a growl or something would push up against the truck. Periodically, we could see something pacing in the dark just beyond the reach of our work lights. Even though we were inside a locked truck cabin, it was still a very vulnerable feeling. We were very much trapped. I'm sure it felt similar to what divers experience inside a shark cage far out in the sea. All of this went on for an hour, while we waited for someone to show up. Finally, coming up the road, we could see headlights of 3 approaching vehicles. The security team had shown up in the time with actual rifles. Over the radio, we told them what had been going on. You could feel their disbelief and eyes rolling through the radio. The sass and disbelief soon faded when we explored the worksite and found it covered in fresh, large wolf tracks. The security team split up the 2 trucks, headed out to search for the wolf while the last one remained with us as we loaded our equipment and finished our job. We didn't hear or see anything else that night as we cleaned up, but we sure did keep our heads on a swivel. The security officers didn't find the wolf that night. A set of tracks left the work site and out into the open tundra. The officers commented that the tracks looked weird. This was due to them only seeing the back paw prints in the snow. The security truck escorted us back to the main camp while the others continued their search into the night. For the following week, various reports came in across the oil field of people seeing this mangled black wolf during the day. And at night, reports kept coming back that a black beast walking upright and harassing or cornering workers. Security seemed to always show up a minute or two late. During this time frame, many of the Alaska Native workers were getting nervous. One of our friends in the camp workshop was from a small village just west of the oil field. He told us it sounded exactly like an Ijirak, a shape-shifting creature that can take the form of an Arctic animal while it hunts. He said it was obvious as the wolf was a normal, albeit deformed animal in the daylight, but transformed into an upright monster after nightfall. The Ijirak are thought to be Inuit hunters that are traveled too far north and become stuck between the world of the living and the dead. They transformed into evil, deformed men with a sideways mouth and eye. They use their power of shape-shifting to hunt other Inuit, especially children. I'm sorry if I say this name wrong. The Inupiat are weary of wild animals for this very reason. A week following our encounter, the security team was able to corner the wolf on a remote work site. It had attacked and trapped 2 welders in their truck. Both workers had superficial cuts through their snowsuits, but otherwise were fine. Having no other choice, the wolf was euthanized on the spot. Security shot the wolf once, and instead of dropping dead, it charged the officer that shot it. The wolf took 3 more high-powered rifle shots before it eventually collapsed at the feet of the officer. Even then, paralyzed in the now crimson snow, the wolf was still growling through its crooked, wide smile. After several minutes, it finally succumbed to its wounds. The wolf's body was taken to the University of Alaska Fairbanks for dissection and examination. Outside of the facial deformities and gnarled appearances, the biologist concluded it was an ordinary wolf from the Brooks Range Mountains. How it got hundreds of miles from home and why it stayed in the tundra is a complete mystery. So that was the entire story. So that one was really, really scary and really good. I really like these backwoods stories ones. That one wasn't really in the woods because it was more like Alaska, but I found that one to be very interesting. I'm sorry if I said any of the names wrong. These names are definitely ones I've never heard before and they were kind of hard to read. So I'm so sorry if I said the names wrong. If you guys can correct how to actually pronounce it in the comments down below, I would be more than happy to learn how to say it properly. So this is where I'm going to end the video because we are at the 25-minute mark. So if you guys made it to the end of this video, please leave me your favorite winter emoji, a snowflake, a snowman, anything to do with the winter time down in my comments below to let me know you guys made it to the end of the video. If you guys are enjoying my 31 days of uploads, then please leave me a comment, like my video, do any type of interaction on my video that helps me boost it in the algorithm so that I can get more people joining my little channel here. We hit 10,000 subscribers this morning, so thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed in the last couple years because I cannot believe how quick we are growing and how exciting this is for me. So thank you so much for subscribing. If you guys are not yet subscribed, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. If you guys have any scary stories, any paranormal stories, any personal scary stories in journal that you want to share with the channel, please feel free to send me a message either on Instagram or over my email. All of my information is listed down below in a pinned comment and also in my description box. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.